Ethan Ward had always dreamed of exploring the stars, ever since he was a child. He had stared at the night sky, imagining what kind of worlds and civilizations might exist beyond Earth now. Years later, he was living that dream. He was part of the United Earth Expedition, a mission that had traveled across light years to reach a newly discovered star system. Their ship, the Horizon, was large, carrying scientists, explorers, and diplomats. They had studied planets from orbit before, but this was the first time they had found a world that seemed alive with intelligent life. From above, the planet looked like a jewel-lit surface glowing with green forests, silver rivers, and huge stone cities that could be seen even from space. Ethan was not the captain, nor a great scientist. He was just an explorer, someone who wanted to walk new ground and learn. But destiny had a strange way of choosing people, and it seemed to have chosen him when their shuttle landed in a wide-open field near the alien city. Ethan felt his heart beating fast. Around him, his team prepared. Some checked their equipment, others checked translation devices. While a few looked nervous, no one knew if the aliens would welcome them or attack them. The air outside was warm and filled with a strange sweet scent, almost like flowers mixed with spices. The sky was a deep shade of violet, and the suns hung above the horizon. The city ahead looked magnificent, with tall towers shaped like spirals and bridges carved from shining stone. As the human crew walked toward the city gates, they were met by a line of alien guards. The guards were tall, their skin a pale silver blue, and they wore armor that shimmered like glass. Each carried a long spear-like weapon that seemed alive with faint energy. The humans stopped. The leader of the mission, Captain Harris, stepped forward and tried to speak. His translator turned his English words into the alien tongue. He spoke of peace, of meeting as friends, of learning from each other. For a long moment, the alien guards did not move. Then the crowd behind them parted, and she appeared, the alien queen. She was taller than the rest, graceful yet strong. Her crown was not metal, but something that looked like crystal, glowing faintly in the sun's light. Her eyes were bright and intelligent, filled with power. She walked slowly, every step measured, until she stood before the humans. Ethan had expected her to speak to Captain Harris, or at least to stand proudly as a ruler. But what happened next shocked everyone. The Queen's gaze moved across the human crew. Then her eyes fell on Ethan. She froze. For a moment she seemed almost afraid, as if she had seen something impossible. And then, to the astonishment of all, the alien queen lowered herself to the ground. She placed her hand across her chest and knelt before Ethan. The entire alien crowd gasped. The human crew stared in disbelief. Captain Harris looked at Ethan with wide eyes. No one spoke. Ethan himself could not move. His legs felt heavy, his thoughts spinning. Why would a powerful queen kneel before him, a simple explorer? The queen spoke in her own language. The words were soft yet carried great weight. The translator struggled, but finally gave a single word. Chosen. Ethan blinked. Chosen? Chosen for what? He whispered, though no one answered. The queen slowly lifted her head, her eyes still fixed on Ethan. She reached out a hand, palm up, as if inviting him forward. Ethan hesitated, then stepped closer. Her guards shifted nervously, but none stopped him. When he stood before her, she touched his arm gently. Her fingers brushed the inside of his forearm, where he had a birthmark he had carried since childhood. The mark was shaped like a star with 4 points. The queen's eyes widened as she saw it. She whispered something again. The translator tried, but the device only repeated, the mark of the star. The humans exchanged confused looks. Captain Harris whispered, Ethan, what's going on here? I don't know, Ethan answered truthfully. His voice was shaking. I don't know at all. The queen rose gracefully, still holding Ethan's arm as if she feared he might vanish. Then she turned to her people and raised her voice. The alien crowd bowed their heads in silence. It was clear that whatever she had declared, it carried great importance. The humans were guided into the city with honor. The streets were wide and filled with strange music that seemed to come from the stones themselves. The citizens looked at Ethan with awe, whispering as he passed. He felt uncomfortable, like a man wearing clothes that did not belong to him. Inside the great palace, made of crystal and stone, the queen sat on a throne carved into the shape of a starburst. She looked at Ethan again, her gaze deep and unshakable. Through the translator, she finally spoke in a way the humans could understand more clearly. "We have waited for you," she said slowly. "Our prophecy told us one day the starborn would come. The one with the mark, the one from the sky. You are the one." Ethan felt his chest tighten. "I'm not a savior," he said quickly. "I'm just me, just Ethan Ward." The queen shook her head. "No, you are more. The star sent you. The mark proves it. We kneel not to a man, but to destiny." Her words hung in the air like a heavy weight. The human crew began to argue quietly. Among themselves, some thought this was a mistake, some thought it was dangerous. But none of that changed the truth of what had just happened. The queen of an entire alien world had knelt before a human, and not just any human Ethan. He sat in silence, trying to process everything. Why him? Why not Captain Harris or one of the brilliant scientists? Why a simple explorer with no power, no great skills, no history of command? That night, Ethan could not sleep from his window in the palace. He looked out at the alien city, glowing softly under the two suns. He remembered the way the queen had looked at him, the way the aliens had bowed, the way the word chosen had echoed through the air. Something was happening, something bigger than he could understand. He whispered to himself, "Why me?" But the night gave no answer, only silence, and the strange sense that his life had just changed forever. Ethan woke early the next morning, though he had barely slept. The alien palace around him was quiet, filled with the faint hum of energy that seemed to flow through the crystal walls. Outside his window, the twin suns rose slowly, casting golden light across the city. The beauty should have comforted him, but instead he felt heavy with worry. He was no leader, no chosen one. He was just Ethan Ward, an explorer who liked to walk on new ground. Yet an entire alien civilization believed he was something greater. Soon, Captain Harris and the human crew gathered with him in the throne hall. The alien queen was already there, seated on her glowing star-shaped throne. Her presence was commanding. Yet when her eyes found Ethan, they softened as if she saw an old friend. Through the translator, the queen spoke clearly. "You wish to know why I knelt," she said. Her voice was steady, echoing across the hall. "You wish to understand." Ethan nodded quickly. "Yes, please explain." The queen gestured to a group of robed figures who stepped forward. They were alien scholars, their long robes marked with silver symbols. Each carried scrolls and glowing tablets. One of them opened a scroll and began to speak in a melodic voice. The translator translated, "Long ago, before the memory of our great cities, a vision was given to our ancestors. They were told of the Starborn One, a traveler from the skies who would come. When our world stood at the edge of destruction, this Starborn would carry the mark of the star upon his flesh. He would unite our people and guide us against the darkness." The scholar looked at Ethan, bowing his head with respect. The queen continued, "That mark is upon your arm. It is the same mark carved into our oldest walls. You carry the sign. And so, when I saw you, I knew the prophecy was true. You are the one foretold." Ethan pulled back his sleeve and stared at the star-shaped birthmark on his arm. He had never thought much about it before. It was just a strange mark, nothing more. Yet here, in this palace, it carried a meaning older than human history. "I don't understand," Ethan said softly. "I'm not a savior. I'm not a leader. I don't know how to guide anyone, not even myself." The queen's eyes never left him. "It does not matter what you believe. What matters is that destiny has chosen you. My people believe, and their belief gives you power." Captain Harris stepped forward then, his face stern. "With respect, Your Majesty, Ethan is just one of my explorers. He is not a soldier, not a commander. We came here to meet, to share knowledge, not to become part of your prophecies." The queen studied Harris calmly. Yet destiny does not ask for permission. It simply arrives. The room grew tense. Some of the human crew shifted uncomfortably. They whispered among themselves. Some thought it was foolish superstition. Others felt fear would have being linked to this prophecy dragged them into a war. One of the alien scholars motioned for Ethan to follow, with the queen's nod. Ethan walked with them through the palace halls. They brought him to a chamber deep inside the palace. Its walls were covered with carvings, glowing faintly in the dim light. The carvings showed images of tall figures with star-shaped marks leading armies, standing against great storms and guiding the people. The scholar pointed at one carving. It showed a figure with the same four-pointed star on his arm, standing before a burning sky. The mark of the star, the scholar explained. Only once in 1,000 years does one appear. You are the first we have seen in many generations. Ethan reached out and touched the carved star. His birthmark tingled slightly, though he wondered if it was just his imagination. When they returned to the throne hall, the queen spoke again. There's more you must know. Our world is not at peace. To the east lies the Dominion, a rival empire. They grow strong, and they hunger for our lands. War is coming. The prophecy says the Starburn will lead us in the time of greatest need. That time is now. Ethan felt his stomach tighten. War. He had not come here to lead anyone into battle. He had come to learn, to explore, not to be dragged into a conflict that was not his own. I can't fight a war, Ethan said quickly. I don't even know how to fight. I don't know your people, your ways, your enemies. You must have someone better suited than me. But the queen shook her head. The prophecy is clear. No one else can hold this place, only you. The human crew was divided. Dr. Lopez, one of the scientists, whispered to Ethan. Maybe it's just coincidence. Maybe your mark just looks like their symbol. Don't let them use you. But another crew member, Lieutenant Adams, said quietly, look around you, Ethan. They believe in you. If you refuse, what will that do to them? What will that do to us? Ethan felt trapped between two worlds, his own human logic and the alien's unwavering faith. That evening, the queen invited him to a private meal in the palace garden. The air was filled with glowing flowers, and strange flying creatures hovered like lanterns. She spoke softly this time, no longer like a queen, but like someone sharing a secret. I know this burdens you, she said. I see doubt in your eyes. But destiny does not choose the strongest or the bravest. It chooses the one who can carry the weight. That is you. Ethan sighed. But why me? There must be a reason. The queen's gaze was calm. Because sometimes the smallest flame can guide the lost through the darkness. You are that flame. Ethan had no answer. Later, as he lay in his chamber, he stared again at his birthmark. It glowed faintly under the alien light, or perhaps his tired eyes were tricking him. Either way, he could not ignore the truth. These people believed he was their hope. And whether he wanted it or not, that belief tied him to their fate. Outside, the twin suns sank below the horizon, and the alien city glittered with lights. Ethan whispered into the silence, if I really am chosen, then what am I supposed to do? No answer came. Only the distant sound of alien bells ringing across the night. But deep inside, he felt a stirring something between fear and responsibility. The journey had only just begun. Days passed in the alien city, and Ethan still felt like a man living inside someone else's life. Everywhere he went, aliens bowed their heads or whispered his name. They called him the Starburn, the one from prophecy, the one who would save them. But Ethan felt nothing like a savior. He was just an explorer who had come to see new worlds. Yet the weight of their belief pressed down on him. The alien queen trusted him. The scholars spoke of him. Even his own human crew had begun to look at him differently. Some with doubt, some with quiet respect, to prepare him for what was coming. The queen ordered that he be trained by her best warriors. Each morning Ethan woke before the suns rose. He was brought to the palace courtyard where soldiers waited, tall and strong, their armor gleaming in the faint light. They taught him how to hold their weapons, long staff-like blades that seemed to hum with energy. At first, Ethan could barely lift them. His arms shook, and his strikes were clumsy. The soldiers corrected him again and again. "You are too slow." One said, "Your feet must move like water." Another told him. Again, their commander barked, forcing Ethan to repeat every move until his body ached out by the end of the first week. His muscles burned, and his hands were covered with blisters. He wanted to quit, but the Queen's words echoed in his mind. Destiny does not choose the strongest. It chooses the one who can carry the weight. So he carried it at night, when he lay in his chamber. He began to see strange dreams. At first they were small flashes of light, the sound of battle, voices calling his name. But soon they grew clearer. He saw fields burning under a red sky. He saw alien armies clashing with another force dressed in black armor. He saw himself standing in the middle, holding a weapon that shone like a star. And he heard a voice, soft but urgent, "Guide them, unite them, or all will fall." Ethan would wake with sweat on his face and his heart racing. He tried to tell himself they were only dreams, but deep down he felt they were more. One evening, while training, he lost his focus and dropped his weapon. Frustrated, he raised his bare hand to the soldiers and shouted, "Stop!" to everyone's shock. The weapons in their hands lit up with sudden energy, glowing brighter than before. The soldiers froze, staring at him. The commander knelt. "The prophecy is true," he whispered. "The weapons obey his will." Ethan stepped back, stunned. He had not touched their weapons, yet they had responded to him. It made no sense. But once again, the prophecy seemed real. The Queen soon learned of this event, and she came to Ethan that night. "The mark is awakening," she told him. "You are beginning to feel the power of the Starburn." Ethan shook his head. "But I don't want power. I only wanted to explore. I'm not ready for this." The Queen looked at him firmly. "None are ever ready. But when the storm comes, only you can stand against it." And the storm came sooner than expected. Not far from the city, one of their border towns was attacked. Messengers rushed into the palace with news. The Dominion, their rival empire, had crossed the border with warships and soldiers. Homes burned and families fled. The Queen gathered her generals, and Ethan stood among them, though he felt out of place. A map was laid before them, showing where the enemy had struck. The generals wanted to respond quickly, to drive the Dominion back before they reached deeper into the land. But the Queen looked at Ethan. "The prophecy says the Starburn will guide us. What do you say?" Ethan's heart pounded. He was no general. He knew nothing of strategy, yet all eyes were on him. He thought of his dreams, the burning fields, the soldiers in black armor. This was what he had seen. He swallowed and said, "We must protect the people first. Evacuate the towns, then strike when they are safe." The generals murmured, surprised. It was not the answer they had expected, but the Queen nodded. "We shall do as the Starburn says." So Ethan went with them to the border. He rode in a strange alien vehicle that glided above the ground. His crew came to Captain Harris, Lieutenant Adams, and Dr. Lopez. They were nervous but loyal. When they arrived, Ethan saw the smoke rising from the town. The Dominion soldiers were unlike the Queen's people. They were taller, darker, their armor black as night, their weapons sharp and cruel-looking. They moved with discipline, striking fear into everyone around them. Ethan felt his knees weaken. How could he face such an army? But then he saw the townspeople running, carrying children, helping the old. They looked to him, their eyes wide with hope, as if waiting for him to do something. And in that moment, his fear turned into resolve. He grabbed one of the alien weapons, though it felt heavy in his hands. He raised it high and shouted, "Stand with me! Protect your home!" The soldiers of the Queen roared in answer. They charged forward, following Ethan. To his shock, as he swung the weapon, it seemed to grow lighter, moving with him as if alive. Energy burst from it, striking the enemy with bright flashes. The Dominion soldiers hesitated, clearly startled. They had expected a simple fight, but now they faced the Starburn of legend. The Queen's forces pushed them back, and soon the Dominion retreated. The townspeople cheered, chanting Ethan's name. The soldiers raised their weapons in salute. Ethan stood in the middle of it all, breathing hard, his hands shaking. He had fought in a real battle for the first time, and somehow he had survived. But more than that, he had led. That night, as they camped near the border, Ethan sat by the fire with his crew. Captain Harris looked at him seriously. "You're becoming what they believe you are," he said. "Do you understand what that means?" Ethan stared into the flames. "It means there's no turning back. Whether I want it or not, this is my path now." Dr. Lopez touched his arm gently. "Then you must be careful, Ethan. Belief is powerful, but it can also be dangerous. Don't lose yourself." He nodded slowly, but deep inside he felt the truth of his visions. This was only the beginning. The Dominion would not stop. War was coming, and when it came, all of them would look to him. As the fire burned low, Ethan whispered to himself, "I have to be ready. I have to be above them." The twin moons of the alien world rose, casting silver light over the land. The storm was rising, and Ethan was at its center. The victory at the border town lifted the spirits of the Queen's people. For the first time in many years, they believed they could stand against the Dominion. Soldiers marched proudly, and citizens chanted Ethan's name as he passed to them. The prophecy was alive, but to Ethan, the weight grew heavier each day. He could not escape the feeling that he was walking in a role meant for someone else. Every bow, every whisper of starboard reminded him that he was only human, ordinary, untrained, unprepared. The Queen tried to ease his burden. She spent hours speaking with him, explaining her people's customs, their history, their struggles. She believed that sharing knowledge would help him understand the path he must take. Her calm presence gave him strength, but it did not silence his doubts. Not everyone in the palace welcomed him. Some nobles whispered in dark corners, their eyes sharp with envy. They questioned why a stranger from the stars should hold such power over their queen. To them, Ethan was not a savior, but an intruder who had stolen their future. One of these nobles was Lord Kale, a tall figure with cold eyes and a tongue like a blade. He bowed in public, but in private he spoke against Ethan. "The humans will bring ruin," Kale told others. "They twist our prophecy to their advantage. Can you not see? They mean to control us." The seeds of betrayal were already growing. One evening, Ethan walked the palace gardens with his crew. The air was cool, and the glowing flowers gave off soft light. Dr. Lopez admired the alien plants, while Captain Harris remained watchful. Sensing the tension in the air, Ethan confessed his unease. "They believe in me, but I'm not sure I believe in myself. What if I fail them?" Harris placed a hand on his shoulder. "Belief is strange, Ethan. Sometimes it's not about who you are, but what people see in you. But don't forget you're still human. You can make mistakes. You can be wrong." Before Ethan could answer, soldiers arrived with urgent news. A Dominion envoy had been captured near the border. He carried strange maps and coded messages. The Queen ordered Ethan to attend the questioning. The envoy was brought into a stone chamber. His black armor glinted in the torchlight. He looked at Ethan with contempt. "So this is the starboard," he said through the translator, "a human child playing with legends." Ethan stood tall, though his heart raced. "Why does the Dominion attack us? What do you want?" The envoy laughed bitterly. "We want the truth to be known. Do you think you are special? You are nothing but a shadow of old lies. Humans came here long ago. They planted your so-called prophecy to bind our people. And now, here you are, another human using the same trick." The words struck Ethan like a blade. He wanted to deny it, but doubt clawed at him. Could it be true? Had humanity touched this world before? Was he just a tool of a plan made centuries ago? Before more could be said, the Queen ordered the envoy taken away. She looked at Ethan and shook her head. "Do not listen to their poison. They fear you. They seek to weaken your spirit." But that night, Ethan could not sleep. The envoy's words echoed in his mind. What if I'm not chosen at all? What if I'm just an accident? A coincidence, a lie. The next day, betrayal struck. Lord Kale, bitter and ambitious, had made a secret deal with the Dominion. He arranged for Ethan to be captured. believing that without the human, the queen would lose her power and the prophecy would crumble. Ethan was walking in the lower halls of the palace when Kel's men surrounded him. His crew fought to protect him, but they were outnumbered. Ethan was dragged away under the cover of night. When he awoke, he was no longer in the palace. He was aboard a Dominion ship, cold and metallic, the stars stretching outside the windows. Chains of energy bound his hands. A tall figure entered the room, the Dominion Emperor himself. His armor was black as shadow, and his eyes were hard with pride. So, the Emperor said, his voice deep, the humans send another starborn to play their game. Ethan struggled. I wasn't sent. I don't even know why I'm here. The Emperor studied him. Perhaps not, but you must know the truth. Long ago, your kind came here. They gave our people knowledge, but they also planted stories, prophecies. They wanted us to see humans as gods, as saviors. It was control. Through belief. Do you not see? You are not destiny. You are manipulation. Ethan felt his breath catch. The words matched the envoy's warning. Could it be true? Were the aliens worshipping a story created by ancient humans? The Emperor leaned closer. Join me, and we can reveal the truth. Or stay with them, and you will live as a lie. Ethan closed his eyes. He wanted answers, but he also remembered the Queen's words. Destiny does not ask permission. It simply arrives. He whispered. Even if what you say is true, they believe in me, and I cannot betray that belief. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. Then you are a fool. Ethan was thrown into a dark cell. Days passed, though he lost count of time. He dreamed again, visions of fire, of battle, of voices crying out for him. The same voice whispered, guide them, unite them, or all will fall. The visions gave him strength. One night, the door opened. A figure slipped inside a Dominion guard. But his eyes were kind. He spoke quickly in hushed tones. Not all of us believe the Emperor. Some of us still honor the prophecy. Come, I will help you escape. With the guard's aid, Ethan slipped through the halls, past watchful soldiers, until he reached a small craft. They launched into the stars, and soon Ethan saw the Queen's world glowing ahead. When he returned to the palace, the Queen met him at the gates. She knelt once more, her eyes shining with relief. I feared we had lost you. Ethan looked at her, torn between truth and faith. The Emperor says the prophecy was made by humans, that it was planted here long ago. What if he is right? The Queen rose slowly and touched his arm. Perhaps it was not, but it does not matter, Ethan. What matters is what you choose to become. Whether planted by man or given by the stars, the prophecy lives because you live. My people believe. I believe. And now, you must believe in yourself. Her words struck deep. Ethan realized then that truth and belief were not the same, even if the prophecy had human roots. The hope it gave these people was real, and hope was something worth fighting for. That night, Ethan stood on the balcony of the palace, looking at the twin moons. His doubts had not vanished, but something new grew in his heart, resolve. The Dominion would return, stronger than before, and when they did, he would be ready not as a perfect savior, not as a god, but as a human who chose to stand. The prophecy might be a mystery, but his choice was clear. He whispered to the stars, I will fight for them, for hope. And in the distance, thunder rolled across the sky, as if the storm itself had heard his vow. The days after Ethan's return were filled with restless energy. The Queen's people prepared for war, and the palace hummed with activity. Armies gathered, ships were armed, and scouts brought news of the Dominion's movements. The enemy was advancing with a force greater than ever before. Ethan stood among the preparations, feeling the weight of every eye on him. Soldiers saluted as he passed. Citizens whispered his name with hope. His human crew walked beside him, loyal but concerned. Captain Harris often reminded him, you don't have to be perfect, Ethan. Just be honest with them. That's enough. But Ethan knew honesty would not win battles. He had to do more than speak. He had to lead. The Queen trusted him fully. She gave him command of the Star Legion, her most elite warriors. At first, Ethan protested. I'm not a general. I don't know the rules of war. The queen smiled gently. You know the rule that matters most, to protect. That is enough. The first clash came in the skies above the queen's world. Dominion warships entered orbit, their black holes blocking out the stars. The queen's fleet rose to meet them. Ethan stood on the bridge of a command vessel, his hands shaking as alarms rang and lights flashed. Starboard, the commander asked, "What are your orders?" For a moment, Ethan froze. Then he remembered the visions, the burning skies, the desperate voices. He closed his eyes and trusted them. Hold the front line steady, he said. Do not chase them. Wait for them to overextend. The order seemed simple, almost too cautious. But when the Dominion pushed hard, expecting the Queen's fleet to break, they instead fell into position. Then Ethan shouted, "Now, surround them." The Queen's ships moved like a net, closing in from all sides. The Dominion fleet was caught, forced to retreat. Cheers filled the command vessel. The soldiers turned to Ethan with admiration, but he only sighed in relief. This was only the beginning. The war raged on the ground as well. Dominion troops landed near the capital, black banners waving as they advanced. Ethan fought beside the Queen's warriors, his weapon glowing in his hands. Every strike seemed guided by unseen power, and the soldiers rallied around him. The Dominion fought fiercely, but something was changing. When Ethan raised his weapon, the Queen's soldiers shouted his name and charged with unshakable courage. His presence gave them strength. Even his human crew joined the fight. Lieutenant Adams led a squad with precision, while Dr. Lopez used her knowledge to heal the wounded with alien medicine. Captain Harris stood at Ethan's side, a steady hand. In the storm of battle, Ethan realized that though he carried the mark, he was not alone. Together, they were stronger, but the Dominion Emperor would not be defeated so easily. He came himself, leading his dark army into the heart of the Queen's land. His presence was like a shadow that swallowed light when his soldiers saw him. They fought with renewed fury. The final battle began at the plains outside the Crystal City. The ground trembled under marching armies, the sky filled with the roar of ships. Ethan stood at the front, the Queen at his side, her crystal crown shining in the sun. The Emperor stepped forward, his black armor reflecting the light. His voice thundered across the field. "Starboard, do you still cling to your false destiny? Do you not see you are nothing but a lie?" Ethan gripped his weapon tightly. His fear was real, but his voice was steady. "I don't need to be destiny. I don't need to be perfect. I'm here because they believe in me, and I will not betray that belief." The Emperor raised his blade, and the two armies clashed. The battle was chaos. Swords clashed, energy blasts lit the air, and war cries shook the ground. Ethan fought his way through the storm, his weapon blazing with light. He moved toward the Emperor, every step a struggle. The Emperor met him with crushing strength. Their weapons collided with bursts of energy that shook the air. The Emperor was skilled, far more experienced. Each strike forced Ethan back, his arms burning with effort. "You are weak," the Emperor growled. "You are only human." Ethan staggered but lifted his weapon again. "Maybe I am weak. Maybe I am only human. But that's enough, because humans don't give up. Not when others depend on them." The Emperor roared and struck harder. Ethan fell to one knee, the weight of the battle pressing on him, round him. He saw soldiers falling, the Queen's people struggling. He heard their voices crying his name, and in that moment, his visions returned clearer than ever. He saw himself standing tall, not as a savior from legend, but as a man who chose to fight. The weapon in his hand shone brighter, responding to his resolve. Ethan rose with renewed strength. He met the Emperor's next strike head-on, and the clash sent a shockwave across the field. With a final cry, Ethan struck forward, his weapon blazing like a star. The Emperor's blade shattered. Darkness fell from his eyes, and he staggered back. His soldiers, seeing their leader defeated, dropped their weapons and fell silent. The battle was over. Silence spread across the plain. Then, slowly, cheers rose from the Queen's army. They shouted Ethan's name, raising their weapons high. The Queen herself knelt before him once more, her voice clear and strong. Not because of prophecy. She said, but because of choice, today you have proven worthy, Ethan Ward. Ethan stood in the center of the field, breathing hard, his weapon still glowing faintly. He looked at the Queen, then at the soldiers, then at his human crew. They all believed in him not because of a legend, but because of who he had chosen to be. Days later, peace was declared. The Dominion, humbled by defeat, agreed to withdraw. The Queen's people rebuilt their towns, and hope returned to their land. Ethan was honored with songs and statues, but he asked for none of it. Instead, he spent his time walking among the people, speaking with them, learning from them. One evening, as the sun set, Ethan stood on a balcony with the Queen. The city glowed with life below them. "You have changed us," the Queen said softly. "And you have changed yourself." Ethan smiled faintly. "I'm no savior. I'm just a man who couldn't walk away." The Queen bowed her head with respect. "Sometimes that is the greatest kind of savior." That night, Ethan gazed at the stars. He thought of Earth, of humanity, of the journey that had brought him here. The galaxy was vast, filled with danger and wonder. And now he knew that humanity had a place in it, not as conquerors, not as gods, but as people willing to stand, to fight, and to hope. He whispered to the sky, "This is only the beginning," and the stars seemed to shine brighter, as if answering his vow. The legacy of the Starborn had been written not in prophecy, but in choice, and Ethan Ward, the ordinary explorer, had become extraordinary.